this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to talk about something serious and crazy going on in California, and it'll spread to other places. As a matter of fact, I suppose this sort of ideology has already kind of been stopped in Florida, but California is a dastardly place. So California, the AG's suing a school district because the school district wants to alert parents if a child, tells their teachers, or I guess folks, if they want to be a different gender in the classroom and whatnot. So the left is starting to call it like a outing bill, an outing legislation, and they're trying to frame it in a way similar to how they were trying to change the narrative on the parental rights and education bill, which the media latched on and started calling it the "Don't Say Gay" bill. But just the idea of all these like people trying to hide things from a parent should be enraging, I think, and is just another reason added to the list of why I just would not trust a public school or private school or daycare or any of these places where you entrust a stranger to your child for hours a day where you will not know what's going on. So yeah, some more bad fears just manifesting in the horrible state of California. Also, Kemp was decided to, I guess, do a PSA regarding a plot, I guess you could say, or plan of some legislators in Georgia plan to defund Fani Willis and about where's the Fani um with the case with Donald Trump, and he's not going along with it. He's like, that's could be unconstitutional. So I want to play his statement about it. And some people are really mad about his statement. But Kemp is really popular, so some people are like, we're gonna do retribution, and it's like, I don't know what you guys plan to do, because Trump tried to get him out and it did not work out well for them. And also Mitch McConnell had another kind of zone out scare, and I think they really need to set him down, consider his health. He served a long time. He's done plenty of things I guess people don't like. He's done some things that were turned out good, particularly how they're moving things along in the courts and stuff, and the gamble they played with Garland not being on the court. Kudos for that. But he served a long time, and his family needs to think about setting him down. So it's an important story, I guess. I mean, he's one of the most powerful people within our legislative body. So but it's disturbing, I think, and uncomfortable. Just, I don't know, watching people get old around you. It's a bit sad. But I wondered why elder abuse was trending the other day, and I'm pretty sure I think it was because of him, because I didn't watch his video until later, and then it was just like, oh, that's why it was trending. Anyway, before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Costs to stream, costs to run my website, and all that stuff. So if you guys would like to support in that kind of way, God bless you. You guys, if you're watching on Facebook, you can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do super chats. But easiest way to do anything, well, the fastest way, I guess, to kind of directly, because all these other things take a cut. So if you just want to directly go to the website, you guys can. But I will see like your super chats and stuff if you guys put anything on there. So thank you guys. Oh gosh, there's already quite a bit of comments. Um, just FYI, if you're watching on Facebook and you're like, I don't see people, I can see everybody basically populating in. I know I don't always respond to every comment because or a lot of comments sometimes because I'm trying to kind of keep my thoughts as I'm speaking, but I try to look in every here and now to see what you guys are talking about. But thank you guys for being in the chat. Thank you guys who watch it back later. Thank you guys for, conversating with each other, because that does help other people find the page as well. So thank you. Also, check out different merch at the store. I'll just show like a few things like that. I'm not the victim you're looking for. This denounce white supremacy, defeat Joe Biden shirt with a list of some of his racism on the back. So you can pick that up. I also have that in long sleeve, FYI, and black tea mugs, etc. I do also have books that I've written, like, of course, God is blatantly against abortion. You guys can check that out. It's available on Barnes and Noble and Amazon as well. And thank you to those who have read it and read some of my other material and left nice reviews. Very much appreciate it. So I told my sister was on the phone the other day with another sister, and they were talking about my nephew and asking questions about school, and because he's been like online kind of like learning stuff, and so he's going to like a building, and he's like, well, what if somebody pushes me or something, and his mom's like, you better defend yourself. And then he's like, well, what if the kid's bigger than me? And I just kind of chimed in and was like, that's why I should have read Super Kid too. And Super Kid it's my book. I'm like, that's the whole plot. That's the whole plot of the book. Felix could have told him what to do. And so he's reading the first one though. He's reading the first one. It's a little challenging for him, but he's getting through it. But anyway, we got kids, and you need some good chapter books for them. Go ahead and go to blacktnews.com, and when you go to the merchandise page, there's a banner at the top with some of my books on it, and that'll take you to my book website. Or you can just search my name, Christina L. Barr, Christina with a CH, on Amazon. And I do have an ad that I made for this Tucker Carlson thing that's actually going to be on the news this weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and play it because I'm happy with it. The biggest name in media is coming to Michigan for one day only. Tucker Carlson. See Tucker Carlson live September the 10th at Jimmy John's Field in Utica, Michigan. Visit Brighter MI for tickets starting at $50. Get your tickets at brightermi.com. Yeah. So I just whipped that out today for the pack. So if you're in the Michigan area, or you're not too far, you live in Ohio, or not too far, whatever, and you want to come, you're more than happy to come. You can go to the website. There's a link in the description. The link in the description of this episode will take you to a page that will have some discounts on some of the tickets. These tickets, I think, they're normally like 100 and they're like 80. So it's a bit of a discount, so you guys can pick up those seats. But there are seats that start at $50 that are like further back, like in the field and stuff. So and of course they get more expensive the closer they get up. So if you want to get a different spot, you guys can just go to brightermi.com and just buy tickets the normal way. But I just want to let you know what's available. Again, it is a fundraiser. We're glad to bring out Tucker Carlson. It'll be a great night. There's going to be a concert. They're going to honor police and first responders. They're going to give out scholarships. It's something we do every year. This is like the biggest one that we put on. But this pack did really help me as I grew my channel. When I was in the studio every day, the Michigan Brighter Pack studio every day, I did not pay a dime. They just wanted to help conservatives. They liked what I did. They appreciated what I did, and they just wanted to uplift my voice. So it's a great organization, and we have a lot to fight for. This election cycle. So help a good group do that, and of course, go see Tucker Carlson, and I hope to see you guys there as well. So I want to start off with this story from California. Not surprised in the least bit. And this is there's a couple articles about it. I'm reading from ABC News. California sues district that requires parents to be notified if their kids change gender ID. Uh, California's Attorney General sued a Southern California school district Monday over its new policy requiring schools to notify parents if their children change their gender identification or pronouns, the latest blow in an intensifying battle between a handful of school districts and the state about the rights of trans kids and their parents. Attorney General Rob Bonta said policies like the one adopted by Chino Valley Unified School District will forcibly out transgender students and threaten their well-being, but the district's board president and supporters say parents have a right to know the decisions their children are making in schools. Of course the parents do. And this makes me so upset. This makes me so mad. Beyond the gender thing, just thinking that these teachers be like, we're going to keep this big secret. And the attorney general being like, yes, we're going to keep this big secret. It's really crazy. First of all, you're not forcing them to come out because they are obviously out in school. You're just hiding this particular big thing from their parents. What psychologically, what do you think you're doing? Psychologically, what do you think you're doing between that parent and that child, causing this rift, creating further division, teaching them that it's okay to lie and to deceive them and to keep secrets from their parents? So that's crazy to me. Beyond like the gender thing, that's like, it's not your place, bro. It's not your place. So they're already out. You're just encouraging them to keep this big secret. Gender dysphoria, that's a real condition. People say that you have to affirm people or they're going to hurt themselves. That's the narrative from all these organizations and all these activists, that you have to affirm them or people are going to hurt themselves. So there's something not quite all there together, folks. If we're going down that road, right? Affirmation is a treatment. Affirmation is a treatment. So the child is having some sort of mental distress, and you are deciding this is how you want to treat them, but you don't want to tell their guardian. In most cases, the person who popped them out of their body. You want to keep that a big secret. If something happens to that child, you are not the one who will bury them and mourn them. That is not your responsibility. Maybe you'll be sad for a little bit. I don't know, maybe you'll be guilty forever. Or maybe you just blame the parent. But you are supposed to educate that child. There was a story, gosh. A teacher got fired for showing students something that was like LGBT. And it was a math class. It was a math class. And so she wanted to sue or whatever. The school said she was wrongfully terminated. She wasn't wrongfully terminated. It was a math class. Like, if it was like any other class, like maybe you could make, I don't think it's appropriate, but a case somewhere else, if it was like a literature class and you're reading something, or if it's a science class and you're like, this is the biology's involved, which I don't agree with that stuff. But a math class, the math teacher, this is just how crazy some of these activists are, just so desperate to indoctrinate your kids. Yes, the parents have a right to know. And it's crazy that anyone would think they don't. Again, what kind of rift are you causing? Emotional damage that you are doing to that child. Bonta is seeking a court order to immediately block the policy in Chino Valley, a district about 35 miles east of Los Angeles, which requires schools to notify parents within 3 days if employees become aware a student is asking to be treated as a gender other than the one listed on official records. For far too many transgender children and gender nonconforming youth, school serves as their only safe haven, a place away from home where they can find validation, safety, privacy, uh, peers who will validate their feelings and lie to them. Um, we have to protect that, he said. He argued that the policy discriminates against the students and violates the state constitution's requirement of equal protection for all. A couple of nearby districts have adopted similar policies. This is no place to raise your family, man. A couple of nearby districts have adopted similar policies, and at least one more is considering doing so. The moves have stoked fierce debates at local school board meetings amid an intense national conversation over transgender rights, as other states have sought to impose bans on gender affirming care, bar trans athletes from girls and women's sports, and require schools to out trans and non binary students to their parents. Last week, activists who want parental notification policies and who oppose the teaching of certain LGBTQ material in schools demonstrated in Los Angeles. In California, the proposals are coming from communities that have elected more conservative school board members since the COVID-19 pandemic, putting them increasingly at odds with Governor Gavin Newsom, and fellow Democrats who dominate the state's political leadership. Among them is Chino Valley's Unified President Sonia Shaw, who said the lawsuit was no surprise as state officials have repeatedly taken steps to shut parents out of their children's lives. We will stand our ground and protect our children with all we can because we are not breaking the law, Shaw said in a text message. Parents have a constitutional right in the upbringing of their children, period. Chino Valley spokesperson Andy Johnston said the district's policy protects transgender students by requiring schools to notify social services or law enforcement if the student believes they are in danger. In such circumstances, staff would notify parents until the appropriate agencies had investigated the concern, Johnston said. The notification policies aren't the only battle between local schools and California officials over LGBTQ policies. Earlier this year, Newsom threatened to fine Temecula Valley Unified School District after it rejected an elementary school social studies curriculum that included books mentioning politician and gay rights advocate Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was gross. The district later reversed course. State lawmakers are considering legislation aimed at ensuring school curricula reflects gender, racial, and cultural diversity. The bill would require the California Department of Education to release the guidance on managing in-school conversations about race and gender. Earlier this month, Newsom said state lawmakers also were drafting legislation to address policies to notify parents if their child changed their gender identity. But Assemblymember Chris Ward, representing San Diego, vice chair of the California Legislative LGBTQ Caucus, said legislation won't be introduced this year while the complexities of this issue are still being studied. The parental notification policies began cropping up after Republican state lawmaker Bill Alessi proposed a statewide bill on the issue that never received a hearing in Sacramento. He then started working on local school board members like Shaw and the California Family Council to draft the notification policy that was voted on in Chino Valley. Here's a little bit more of the article, but this is a crazy thing going on in Cal. I just keep thinking back to like 2008, and I was so surprised that California voted to pass a ban on gay marriage. But I wasn't surprised that the black vote was like uniformly like, nah, bruh. But the side that wanted the ban, they were like, if we do this, then they're going to teach us in your schools. And the people on the no side who were trying to keep the ban from passing, they're like, that's crazy. We won't put this in schools. No, that's propaganda. Now, do you guys think that they really thought back then that they weren't going to put it in schools, or do you think they were just lying because they knew enough people that wouldn't have wanted it in the schools? So, yeah, the Republicans voted down, but it's a mostly Democrat state, and minorities like really voted it down. But you know, there's still minorities. But Democrats, you know, were also like, I don't know about that in schools. So you know, the ban eked out a victory, but of course we know the Supreme, it got, you know, taken to the Supreme Court, and then they ruled that's the law of the land. And then you know, now we have we're hiding if kids are trans in schools. So um regardless of however you feel about uh whether gay marriage should or shouldn't be legal, I'm just letting you know that's the history there. That was the slippery slope that they were talking about. You can feel however you feel. That's just is what it is. Um but some time ago, I reported on it about more than a year ago. Abigail Schreier did a story in California. I guess it had to be more than a year ago. There were teachers who were like spying on kids like during the pandemic because they'd like see what was on in their room or on their you know, different stuff that they'd have, you know, on their desktop or whatever, to see if they were gay or maybe queer. And they were like recruiting kids into these clubs, and then they'd have these LGBT clubs, but they wouldn't have like official logs or whatever. So if a parent asked like, is my kid in your club, they'd be like, I don't know. Even though they knew, but they didn't have a need to keep a record or whatever to actually tell the parent. So they were telling, they would go to other districts or help other schools in red areas to recruit more kids into their clubs. And um, there was a school where teachers were you know, encouraging kids to change their pronouns and other stuff like that, and hiding it from their parents. And they went and actually like changed the school records of the child, which parents were just livid about. So um, this crazy stuff's been going on for a minute, and you're seeing pushback against it from, you know, as the article said, as some school boards were taken over by some Republicans because parents are sick of it. Unfortunately, you know, Democrats still have like a huge supermajority in California, and they're basically a one party state, and the governor is crazy, and they have crazy people who push insane policies um, to keep parents out of the dark and to just advancing the alphabet mafia agenda. Unfortunately, I've told the story many times, and there's a woman, Abigail Martinez. She lost custody of her daughter because she wouldn't go along with, you know, the gender identity. I think she let her daughter like wear whatever clothes or whatever that she wanted stuff, but people kept telling her daughter like it's not enough. She's gonna like cut it off eventually. Like it's not enough. It's not enough. And we're encouraging her to get like emancipated and stuff, and or for her mom to lose the custody. And so, and her mom was religious, and so when she would try to visit her daughter, they would tell her like you can't say anything about your religion or we're gonna cut your visit short. And when they went before the judge to like get her separated from her daughter, they asked her like, do you think if you go on hormones, because her mom didn't want her to take any like hormones and other stuff, and they're like, do you think it'll make you happy? And she didn't know. And it didn't make her happy because the story ended very tragically with her daughter stepping in front of a train and ending her life. So again, these schools that they on one hand they talk about that you have to affirm because they're mentally distressed, and then they'll self-harm if you don't obey their whim. But then you get mad, they get mad if you say like it's a mental condition. It's like it's some things that the math ain't mathing. The math isn't mathing. If that's your go-to, that we all have to affirm or they're gonna self-harm, but you think everything's fine and dandy and internally and mentally, It doesn't make any sense. And maybe it's not even actual real dysphoria, or something's like causing the dysphoria, other sort of um internalized misogyny, social pressure, um depression, other things that are causing them to diagnose themselves. But you don't want them to be able to talk to their parents to figure that out. In Florida, they, with the parental rights and education bill, they had a provision in there that was like, you have to notify the parents, and people were mad about that. But I'm like, there's a good reason why they have legislation written like that specifically. There was a one woman who the school was planning a whole like gender package or whatever for them. So asking the child what kind of bunk she wanted to be in overnight trips, whether she wanted to be bunked with the boys or the girls. I don't know what I would have done if I got that kind of notification, if I found that out, that they were trying to plan that behind my back. And I think my child is in a bunk with all these girls and she's in a room with all boys or something. That'd be it tests my limits, man. And there was a man who Hispanic man, his daughter, he didn't know that she had any dysphoria until she tried to hang herself. And so he ended up taking her out of school and got her some help, and the school knew, but they were keeping it from him, so he got her some help. And he said now she's fine. And I guess we could just take his word for it, but he says she's fine now. And I remember when I first like shared that story on social media, so many people were like, "Oh, well, he's a bad parent for not knowing." Do y'all know how kids work? Like, seriously? You can have the best kid in the world, and then somebody gets in their ear. Some peer gets in their ear. Some other um figure, like a teacher or somebody, gets in their ear. Or they're just embarrassed. They're too embarrassed to come clean to their parent, and then they start making all kinds of different excuses. They don't know how to react. Kids hide things all the time. It doesn't equate to the parent being bad. Kids are kids. I'm not saying all kids hide stuff, but again, it doesn't mean that the parent necessarily did something wrong, or the parent doesn't have a good relationship with the child, or didn't have a good relationship with the child. So I just thought it was disgusting how people made assumptions about his story and his relationship with his daughter. And again, he got her out of that school. He got her some help, and she's fine. She is fine. There's some kids, I know a story of kids who thought that said they were trans. Their parents knew they weren't, and they just kind of waited it out a little bit, and they were fine. A little bit long, time passed. It was a phase. Imagine if they just got around the wrong people, the wrong teacher, the wrong group of friends. And a couple months go by and your daughter wants to chop off her breasts. Or says that they're going to hurt themselves. If you are from California, you need to make some big change. Maybe you need to run. I don't know. But there need to be big changes all over the place, and people need to vote better, not just, at the school boards, but they need to get some of these radical Dems out of office. It is entirely too bad that Larry Elder did not win that recall. It's awful he didn't win that recall. But for Gavin Newsom, who obviously has his eyes set on higher office, bruh, you better not, because you've done some evil things. Signed some evil things in your state. You and Scott Wiener and other folks. You better not. I mentioned the other day, I know he has higher aspirations, and who knows how long they're going to hold on to Biden. and I know Gavin wants to run for president, whether it's this year or the next cycle or whatever. I thought Whitmer would be a stronger candidate. Now she is for some bad stuff too. But we haven't had the time in Michigan to quite soak all the way in the crazy to become California. But they like it. They like it to be that way. I talked about how our attorney general was mad at Hamtramck, which has an all Muslim city council and a Muslim mayor, and they voted to not allow any flags that weren't like government flags to fly. So they're ticked off. People were ticked off because they wanted gay pride flags to fly. And so there's even like this. I had played a video of these two girls who actually like kissed like in front of the council, whatever, in their protest or whatever. So the attorney general ended up coming, and I have an article about this. I think I have a video about this too, if you want to go back and catch up. But she did a little speech about, to have a neutral policy is hateful, which is crazy. To treat everyone the same is hateful because, well, these groups that have been marginalized and discriminated against, when you just treat everyone the same, then it's more hurtful to them. That's crazy. We live in a country where you're not going to get everything that you want, especially when you start bothering other people. And they can fly the flags at their own house, by the way. They just couldn't do it on city property. It sounds pretty reasonable. How would they like if we were flying flags with some scriptures from Leviticus in there? How would they feel about that? Probably not very good. So yes, a neutral policy is good, but if you couldn't guess, the attorney general is gay. She made a big fuss about it. So we got some crazy people here. But again, if you're in California, Godspeed to you. But it's a terrible place to raise your kids, and I mean, not everybody can flee California. I guess someone has to save it. Someone has to save it. But I don't doubt anyone for anyone being like, it ain't me, bruh, and packing up your bags and leaving. But if you do leave and you are on the left, you better leave your left ideology there. Don't take it to Texas with you. Don't take it to Florida with you. Don't take it to Alabama or wherever you might go. Leave that crazy there. Don't go ruin somewhere else. Don't export those crazy values and then import them somewhere else. Please don't do it. Anyway, moving on. Mitch McConnell. I'll just play it. I'll just play it.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator. Fani.
Okay.
Somebody else have a question? Please speak up.
I guess the answer is no, as far as that re-election there. Someone mentioned like, he's probably fine, when he ran last time, but you're talking about people who serve terms in years, whether it's, people in the House or Senator or the president, they might be fine starting off, but what's going to happen is you rapidly start declining when you're upper in age. And I think it's, it's just part of life. It is sad. Kind of just watch the world grow old around you, I suppose. But, He served a long time. He served a long time. They need to. He should have already had some kind of like successor plan. Um, but it's time to implement it, whatever the heck it is. Whatever the heck it is. Um, he's up there, and he's obviously got some issues with his health. He had another scare some time ago. Though man, people have memed the crap out of him. Um, but it was, I thought, disturbing and scary to see. But he said he was fine afterwards. I didn't think he was fine, but he said he was fine. And so this is a repeat thing. Some people again were like, "This is elder abuse." Um, Feinstein is you know, they need to let her go on as well, retire. Um, just let him retire. Him and his family, they need to like, you know, seriously talk and think. Like, I know he's like one of the best political players out there. You know, we got some pretty serious things going on in our country, and you need strong leaders. But people can't be involved in the fight forever. And part of being a good leader is preparing the next generation and making sure that you know when is also the proper time for you to step aside. So kind of looks like that time is now for much there. And our president, he's working right now, but you know, he's was perpetually on vacation. And there was a poll with the AP, and people, you know, said he was old and confused. Those are things that people, I guess, mostly associated with Biden. And he does seem old and confused at times, certainly. And well, he's definitely old, and he's definitely confused. And he's, if you just go back and watch the debate with him and Trump, which wasn't stellar for either accounts, especially the first one, he was a lot more, you know, with it. And people were concerned even then when he was running, because he had a lot of like lids, like media lids and stuff, where they would just not be doing anything. Like they had a lid the day after Ginsburg died. Like people were saying all the stuff about, oh, his health must be terrible, his health must be terrible, after they like had a lid that next day. I'm like, I think something might be actually like really wrong. And who knows, he's up there. I don't want to, you know, speculate too much, but we can all see that he's old and confused. That's true. And I think Trump appears to be in better shape than Biden, but he's up there too. He's up there too. So we got to keep that in mind. When you start getting up there, you start declining pretty fast. I'm grateful though. I do got some good genes though, at least on my mom's side. So my grandmother, her mom, you know, passed away at 102. You know, she was quiet, you know, a little, you know, slow getting around, but you know, in her right mind, and you know, could get around. So it was a blessing. And her mother lived to be 100. Was it 100 or 101? So, you know, hope those are the genes I cling to. Hopefully. Anyway, last thing I want to mention, I think this last thing I want to mention before I let you go is Brian Kemp basically put his foot down as far as we know what's going on in Georgia with Trump being, well, the RICO charges with him and his lawyers and other different people who said were part of his plot, which Alan Dershowitz thought it was just crazy to bring those particular charges. I said it was so petty to get like Rudy with that man with racketeering, because he used that for the mob. So it's like a very ironic, cruel, full circle for him. Um, but some of the legislature have said that they are going to try to defund her and defund her office and stuff to try to stop the prosecution. And their leadership in their house said nope. But Kemp like really shut that down. So I'm gonna go ahead and play his statement for you guys, because he's not having it. And some folks are upset that he shut it down, but Kemp is popular in Georgia. So to the MAGA world who's upset, there's some people like retribution to Kemp, and we're gonna do this. And they tried to primary him because Trump was mad at him. And they didn't get anywhere. So
take just a few minutes to speak to some history that's trying to repeat itself over the last few days here in Georgia. Many of you will recall that in the final weeks of 2020, I clearly and repeatedly said that I would not be calling a special session of the General Assembly to overturn the 2020 election results because such an action would have been unconstitutional. It was that simple. Fast forward today, nearly 3 years later, memories are fading fast. There have been calls by one individual in the General Assembly and echoed outside of these walls by the former president for a special session that would ignore current Georgia law and directly interfere with the proceedings of a separate but equal branch of government. Now, my concerns with the Fulton County District Attorney's handling of this case and the special purpose grand jury have been well documented. We are now seeing what happens when prosecutors move forward with highly charged indictments and trials in the middle of an election. Simply put, it sows distrust and provides easy pickings for those who see the district attorney's action as guided by politics. But let me be clear. We have a law in the state of Georgia that clearly outlines the legal steps that can be taken if constituents believe their local prosecutors are violating their oath by engaging in unethical or illegal behavior. Up to this point, I have not seen any evidence that D.A. Willis's actions or lack thereof warrant action by the Prosecuting Attorney Oversight Commission. But that will ultimately be a decision that the commission will make. Regardless, in my mind, a special session of the General Assembly to end run around this law is not feasible and may ultimately prove to be unconstitutional. The bottom line is that in the state of Georgia, as long as I'm governor, we're going to follow the law and the Constitution, regardless of who it helps or harms politically. Over the last few years, some inside and outside of this building may have forgotten that, but I can assure you, I have not. The oath I took with my hand on the Bible that's right behind me in January of 23 is the same Bible that I took in my inauguration in 2019. And in Georgia, we will not be engaging in political theater that only inflames the emotions of the moment. We will do what is right. We will uphold our oaths as public servants. And it's my belief that our state will be better off for it. And with that, Director Stallings and I are glad to answer.
So there you have it, folks. That plan's not gonna happen. I mean, it looks like just the trial's gonna happen, unless that commission decides something different, and they'll just have to make the case of what she's doing is so crazy. Even so, I don't think I don't know. It just depends how good his lawyers are to really make a theatrical case, I suppose, about you want them to make a good legal case on why he's not guilty of the things that they're saying. that the case itself is the charges are silly, but why I said they're going to need good kind of theatrics is because I don't. There's some things in there that people are going to hear that maybe they're not aware of that went on like in the days after the election that aren't going to sound great. And my concern, I think I mentioned this the other day, is that when I was talking to somebody on Twitter today about there's been a lot of conversation about the black vote and stuff, and whether Trump was going to win that by more than he did last time and stuff. And I said, what's going to happen when someone door knocks in Georgia, like in Atlanta or something, and they're like, you want me to vote for Trump, but he tried to disenfranchise my vote, or because that's what they're hearing, and that's what they will push at the trial. So that trial and the DC one probably as well. So he's got a rough road ahead of him. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Sometimes I still feel like I'm sugarcoating it, but he's got a rough road ahead of him, man. He really does. Ben Shapiro did a pretty good show today, talking about how they're going after Elon Musk and how they're going after other people, and it just, our institutions don't look that they're going to hold if people don't have trust in them, and if every election feels like we have to win or it's the end, and it does feel like that, I guess. I mean, there were some rulings and stuff that were so concerning, like you didn't know how I guess maybe you figured how they might go, but if they went the wrong way, you'd be so screwed. And the fact that we do have conservative justices on the court, and that majority is a good thing, but man, that could change so quickly. They keep going after Clarence Thomas. They want him removed. Man, I told when the whole scandal about him getting like rides and from his rich friend came out, I was going to my nephew's basketball game, and my sister Sabrina drove, and so I'm like, I told them the scandal, and I made sure to do it while we were driving the car because I'm getting a ride from her technically, and so they're just looking at me like that's what they're mad about. And people are like, well, he was supposed to report that. He, at the time when some of that stuff was going down, he didn't have to report it. So now he's reporting stuff, and now people are ticked off. And it doesn't really make sense either, because he is like the most conservative person on the board. Like what are they alleging? Are they alleging that if he didn't have a rich billionaire friend that he wouldn't have voted against Roe v. Wade? Like what are they alleging? How he's influenced. There was, by the way, a letter. I didn't get to read the article, but there was like I think they get like 100 past law clerks or something that stood up for his integrity or something. It was like an open letter. Everybody says the nicest things about Clarence Thomas, including the people who he disagrees with every day. Was it Sotomayor, I think, who I don't think it was Keegan. I think it was Sotomayor who talked about how he's like he's the type of person who will remember to get you flowers if you're sick, will ask about you, who knows everybody's name. Like everyone talks about how he's the nicest, kindest justice. and they just paint him so crazy, and they hate him so much. They resent him so much. They couldn't get rid of him. They couldn't make him resign, back when he originally got seated, back in the Daddy Bush age. And Joe Biden couldn't bork him, and he's been this force on the court. They try to delegitimize him by pretending like he was I don't know, Scalia's shoe shine boy or whatever. He's a brilliant justice. But they hate him. and they want him gone. And once they get him gone, they'll want Alito gone, and it'll just keep going. But they're up there too with age, and they seem to be firing on all cylinders now. But they could always have some kind, God forbid something happen. We didn't expect to lose Scalia the way that we did. That really changed the course of the election. By the way, if Scalia hadn't passed away, I don't know. Trump might not be president. Who knows? But it just shifted the conversation to like, he really, regardless of how people feel about him, Hollywood access tape, all that stuff. People were like, the Supreme Court. I was on a bus tour. I worked for the Michigan Republican Party at the time. That was like a main talking point, like Supreme Court, Supreme Court, Supreme Court. So, which, by the way, I'm sure the left will make that case when they're trying to push Biden over the hump or whatever to win in 2024. They'll be like, we could possibly replace 2 justices. We have to win the Supreme Court. They got rid of Roe v. Wade, and they stopped our student loans. But we should, if we just had judges that looked at the law and honored the law, and we had presidents who would just appoint appropriate people who would just cared about the Constitution and what it says, and not trying to like warp it to their own ideals, we wouldn't feel like it's so life and death with each election. But your rights will start to look real bad, I think, if we lose 2 conservative justices. It was bad enough that the healthcare workers, like the OSHA thing, that didn't pan out for them. But imagine if the OSHA could have forced the mandates, because my sister was concerned about losing her job. I was concerned about her losing her job too. A lot of people were. Imagine if Hillary Clinton was president and got to appoint Garland or whoever she wanted. Or if McConnell hadn't, and the Republicans didn't hold out, and Garland was on the court. We don't like Garland now. How bad would it have been with a lifetime appointment? So anyway, thank you guys very much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, you guys can leave a donation on blacktnews.com/donate. It costs a stream, it costs to run my website, all that stuff. So you guys can support in that way. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Bible says you have not because you ask not, so I'm asking. So if you guys can support in that way, again, I very much appreciate it. Make sure that you guys are checking out some of my material, like of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. It's available on Barnes and Nobles and also on Amazon. I do also have fiction books that I have. So I have 17 altogether. Here's a picture. Well, that's one of my books, but here's a picture with me with 15 of my books. And I just love to write. I am going to be back at Motor City Comic Con in November, so that'll be neat if you're in the Michigan area. But before Comic Con pops up, we do have that Tucker Carlson event that will be on September the 10th. I do have a link in the description if you guys would like to learn more and go to that. So I hope to see you guys there. And I suppose that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, thank you for joining in, and God bless you. Stay safe out there.